Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to The Treaded Path, the podcast from Kufi Productions where we explore the inspiring journeys of Muslim professionals across diverse industries. I'm your host, Salman Hasan, and each week we sit down with remarkable individuals who are making their mark in their chosen fields to highlight their successes and challenges in their industry, providing practical resources for aspiring professionals and offering actionable advice on career advancement and ethical navigation to those who want to tread the path. So today I'm honored to be joined by Afaf Saleh, founder of EngiDynamics and Iconavize. So Afaf began her career with 2 summer internships at Fiat Chrysler automobiles, and now she is, mashallah, very experienced entrepreneur and founder of not one but 2 companies. So, yeah, within the automotive industry. And as a reminder to our listeners, you can find the show notes, resources, and ways to connect with the guest speaker in the Treaded Path archive in kopiproductions.com. And so with that, Sister Afaf, assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Before we dive into your story, why don't you give us or give the listeners a brief overview of what you do in your current role and what initially drew you to the industry that you're in?
Thank you. Yes. Currently, I'm the founder of Iconavize. It's an AI image recognition app to help people better understand their vehicles. And I also founded EngiDynamics. This is an engineering consulting company.
That's good. That's great. And when you first started your career, right? All right. Let's say in college, right? When you first started it off in college, what drew you to automotive or the automobile industry? Or what was so exciting about it for you personally?
For me, I used to watch different shows like Overhauling or How It's Made. Those types of things drew me into engineering. And in high school, I was obsessed with the Mustang. And I thought I would be going into, right after college,
Nice.
I would work for Ford and somehow directly be involved with the development of the Mustang. That has not happened yet.
Okay. All right.
I chose mechanical engineering and I ended up going to Lawrence Tech University for my bachelor's of science in mechanical engineering. But within the internships, got an internship at Chrysler, and then the second internship was also at Chrysler. So I felt comfortable just staying with those guys because they gave me an acceptance letter to hire in directly right after college with them. And I think
Nice.
it was because of comfort.
Nice. So tell us, do you own a Mustang right now? Do you
I
drive a
do
Mustang?
not.
Okay.
I do not. No, I don't. I wish I did. I have a foreign vehicle, so that's another thing, and hopefully one day, I'll have a full circle moment where I will maybe consult to Ford or somehow be involved with the Mustang, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
It will happen. If it's in
Yeah.
the cards, it will happen, inshallah. So, no, that's great. And let's take it back from the start, from the beginning,
Yes.
right? Tell us about like the early influences that kind of help shape your journey and some of your decision making in your career. Was there any one person in particular, or was there um, or a certain role model that you aspire to that kind of led you in the direction that you are in now?
There wasn't direct representation for me to look up to a certain role model, but I
Okay.
always had my mom telling me that whatever you want to go into, you should pursue it, whatever you feel like you wanted to go into, especially in the mechanical engineering field. We didn't have Yemeni females going into this field. It was like our only options were like teaching or nursing, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with those fields.
No,
But
no,
for
yep.
me, I could not even stand the sight of blood. I just knew I would not, succeed in that field. Although I love helping people and I love kids, I felt drawn to engineering. I love finding like I would look at how things are made and want to reverse engineer them and see how to put them back together. And then also being in Metro Detroit, the automotive industry, right?
Right, right.
That was easy to go into the automotive world in there. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say if you're in Detroit, I mean that's kind of like a given. If you're an engineer or within the automotive industry, and that's like what your interest lies, right? It's almost like a given kind of, right?
It's inevitable, yep, to go into
Inevitable.
one of the OEMs or the suppliers, because we have tier 1 suppliers
True.
near tier 2 suppliers. Yeah, absolutely.
And sorry, I cut you off, but you were saying
No, it's
something.
okay. I was gonna tell you, initially, I was gonna go to a different university that was closer to home because we were not at that time, not allowed to go off to live off campus, right? So U of
Uh,
M was not going to be an option for me. But when I did go talk to the university that was closer to home, the advisor said I would never make it in engineering, and that was a little concerning. So I decided, like, this wouldn't be an environment where I could grow, so I looked into first the community college near and then going from there to Lawrence Tech University. I saw the faculty being so supportive, and that's
oh,
what drew
nice.
me to that university, and it being a good engineering school to go into.
Wow, I can't believe they said that to
Yeah.
you. We'll get into this a little bit later as far as like you know, ethics and
Mhm.
um you know, that part of the discussion. Was there I'm sure you faced some sort of some level of racism or colorism or whatever ism exists, right, during your
Throughout,
early career
yes.
or even throughout.
Just throughout the whole journey, I think growing up in a small city, we're so sheltered, right? And everyone is accepting of each other because everyone looks the same and we're all practicing a certain religion. Once you step out and go into college, there's a culture shock and you are exposed to so many different faiths and different cultures. But even within my religion, I got to learn more about different levels of Islam or different types of people who practice Islam their own ways. I think that was pretty
Yeah.
good. Um, but as I look look back in my career in the colleges, I was the only visibly Muslim female, so that was a little bit of a challenge. And there are times I felt like unseen or I didn't belong in this
Hmm. Yeah.
area, but I did
Yeah.
keep going. I always believe in Allah putting me in certain situations because this is His plan and I should follow through. And the dreams and ideas that were put in my mind or in my heart are for me to execute. And alhamdulillah, I've been able to follow through a lot of what I wanted to do
Alhamdulillah.
because of His plan and having tawakkal ala Allah that ultimately it's for a reason.
Absolutely. Right. Everything happens for a reason.
Yes,
The outcome is all controlled by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Um, and that's great. And I think that's a great segue to the next question I have, which is about and we love, you know, this is one of the things we love talking about in the podcast is the intersection of faith and the
yes,
professional life, right? And so you started talking about this, right? About how Islam has influenced and still influences your career choices and your
absolutely.
approach. But can you dive a little bit deeper into that as far as like, are there any particular practices that you uphold, right? Or you make it a point to make it more how should I say it, more public facing, if you will, right? So that not only as a form of dawah, but it's like your way of saying, you know, I enjoy this, I own this, and I love who I am as a Muslim female hijabi in the professional space in the automotive industry. Are there anything in particular that you practice?
It's about intention and consistency, right? Just like how we
Right.
have to make sure we make our salahs on time, and I think having that discipline, I'm able to work through roadblocks, let's say in the workplace,
Yep.
reminding myself that everything I'm doing is for the sake of Allah. Even the smaller tasks, that challenges how I handle it changes like how I handle challenges and how I treat people and how I make decisions.
Yeah.
We are taught to respect each other. And even when there are certain conversations that are a little bit heated, it's okay. We can respectfully give our point of view and move on with
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the key thing, right? Being respectful, right? It doesn't just apply to Muslims or, you know, people practicing of that faith, but really anybody, right? If you're not respectful, then, you know, you as a individual or professional won't be respected, right?
Mm.
Because the way you conduct yourself and the approach you take is an reflection of who you are, right? It's a part of your, I don't want to say personality, but you know, how you conduct your business, right? It just kind of describes the way you handle yourself, right? So I wanted to ask you what unique challenges, and you've touched upon some of these, but as you were going through your career, right? What are some examples or unique challenges you faced, as a professional going through your journey?
Some of I was a little bit taken aback that some individuals didn't know how to interact with a Muslim female. I think I had to teach them in a way that I am a professional just like you are, and we can have open conversations about my faith. And I always welcomed questions. I think that was one of the cool things is when I became a consultant and I had to travel for to get to certain clients, and they were in areas where there were no Muslims in that area, so it was understandable that these
Yeah,
individuals didn't know how to interact with me or didn't know how to approach me, and I always walk with a smile, smiling is sunnah, and I think it welcomed a lot of the conversations, and it helped them understand my points of views and how I practice my religion. Obviously, I don't represent
yeah,
every Muslim on earth, but I can only bring, like, how I practice it,
sure.
and one of the conversations I vividly remember I was, teaching these operators how to install certain parts, and he asked me, like, "What is this?" And he didn't even know the proper term of hijab or, headscarf. I
Hmm.
was able to just build that relationship with him and help him understand, like, m the preconceived notions and show them that Muslimat are not oppressed individuals, and we do have the option to dress however we want, and if we wanna dress conservative, that's our choice. We are
You're right.
choosing to wear hijab, we are choosing to dress modestly for the sake of Allah, and it has nothing to do with the men in our lives or, or our
Yeah, right,
communities.
right, right.
And I think because I'm able to do that, that has helped so many individuals fully understand what Islam really means, and Islam means
Yeah,
peace, and we get
yeah.
to, practice it and teach others. I think Allah has put me in certain places where I'm able to do this, and I'm so, like, grateful for that. Alhamdulillah.
At the end of the day, if you're able to practice what you're preaching and what your beliefs freely, that's really you know a blessing in and of itself, right?
For sure.
And I won't get into the topic of hijab and should it be worn, should not be worn, right? It's not my
Right.
place, but I will say a lot of people, what's the word I'm looking for? Contentious topic, right? Because, like you said, it's a choice, right? Although it's stated in the
I'm not a
Quran,
scholar. I feel like
neither am I. Yeah, neither am I. But what I wanted to say about hijab is that it's a lot of people have mentioned that putting their hijab on or that taking off of it was a pivotal moment that kind of shaped their
Mhm.
journey, right? Their
Mhm.
career, and even personally as well, whether for good or for bad, right? Um, and I think that's just an example of something so powerful when it comes to practicing Islam at the professional level, in the professional setting that can have impacts not only personally, but, at many folds
Yeah.
surrounding you as well. So that's great. And now I want to pivot over to your particular role right now and the industry you're in, working in, broadly speaking. So walk us through a typical day in your shoes, right? What does that look like? And, your current, position as the founder of these two companies. Tell us about what you do.
Entrepreneurship looks different every single day.
Sure.
I think that's why I like it because it's not mundane and I'm not doing the same thing on a daily basis, and I always choose challenges or different challenges so then I can expand my horizon and see how what other ways I can contribute to society while bringing my dreams, to life. We'll wake up early, pray our fajr, and then I have to get my oldest son to school. He's in ninth grade now, and this year
MashaAllah.
we decided to opt out of homeschooling because I did homeschool them for 1 year after deciding that public schools was not the right thing, and both of them loved that. They loved having that one-on-one time with me, and I got to spend so much more time with them.
MashaAllah.
Um, Alhamdulillah. But in high school, he decided that this year he wants to become a oral dentist, I think. And then he's like, in order to, accomplish getting scholarships, that he would have to be in person in this specific blue ribbon
Mm,
school. So I'm
yep.
supporting his dreams in doing that. And so every day I'm taking him to school and then coming home and setting up my younger son's work and making sure he's attending his classes. And then I get to my work and I'm able to look at what meetings I have for the day. And right now I'm interviewing some people to come on board with Iconavize. And then also refining my pitch decks. I have investors that are interested now, so I have to work on my pitch decks, making sure what they're looking for is on there, and then having different meetings with my software team or marketing team. That's on a weekly basis, making sure we're meeting the deadlines. One of the coolest thing is when you work in corporate, you have set deadlines and
Yeah.
we have to work towards those deadlines, whatever they are. In the entrepreneurship world, you have to create those deadlines,
Yeah.
not making those up or creating those for myself. There nothing will get done. It'll always be pushed out to the next month or the following month. And I think entrepreneurship gives you that freedom to decide what you want to work on and when you want to work on it. And then also who you want to work with. That definitely helps when you want to align your values and want to work with certain individuals. That makes you want to continue doing the work that you're doing.
I love it. And there's something I heard from, there's a quote from somebody that I heard about the entrepreneurial role, right? If you're the CEO or the founder of a company, he said that it's one of the worst jobs because you have to make all the decisions that no one wants to make, right?
Mhm.
Which is true. However, the people, there's so many people finding companies, finding movements, creating products every single day, right? Because they love the work, they love the job, right? They love, like you were saying, right? You get to set your own schedule, create the deadlines, talk to and work with the people you want to work with. So you have that freedom of choosing how to run your own business in your organization. So there's definitely a balance, right? But in your opinion, though, so in your opinion, what would you say are the most rewarding aspects of your work? If there's like one or two that you think is the best that you enjoy about your work, what would that be?
Think the final result. I know we have to try to enjoy the journey, but the journey is so difficult.
Yes, yes,
There
it
are
is
times
difficult.
where it's like, "What am I doing? Am I really doing this right now? Why do I always ask Allah to, give me" they say when you're praying for patience or,
Yeah.
something specific, Allah will not give you that right away. Allah will test you to see if you're gonna form those types of,
Hmm.
like to
Hmm.
have patience or
Right.
so I think that is what is so rewarding about being an entrepreneur is that after putting in all this hard work and getting to see it live and showing people what it is or them using it and seeing how it affects people in a positive way, that is very rewarding.
Nice, yes. And as you were saying that, I remember one of the previous guests on the podcast was saying, always keep Allah in mind, right, in every decision you make,
Yeah.
because ultimately He's the one who controls the outcome, right? And
Yeah.
so, in every decision that you make, if you keep the person who controls the outcome in mind as you make the decision, you're going to meet success no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Because Allah knows, what's best for you and
For us.
for your business and for all things that you're working towards, right? So I think this is another what do you call it? So I think this is a great place to move over to the next topic, which is about how we navigate through our work, right? In terms of ethics, ethical dilemmas, issues with morals, right? As you were working with different clients and or at the corporate level. What are some examples of ethical dilemmas you face in your career or in the industry that you work in?
In engineering and product development, one of the most common ethical dilemmas involves balancing cost and quality. We all have, a deadline to meet or our own agendas within each team.
Yeah.
So that was always an issue, there's always that pressure to meet these deadlines and reduce expenses. But when you're reducing expenses, like that means you're reducing quality or something has to give. And that's one of the major dilemmas I think we face in corporate world. But it's our responsibility to ensure safety and long-term reliability.
So
Another dilemma, yeah.
no, go ahead. What you were
I
saying
was gonna
another
say another
dilemma.
dilemma is, like, intellectual property, right? Making sure
Oh
we
yeah.
respect confidentiality and give credit where it's due, especially when we're working with cross-functional teams or global teams.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And so I was gonna ask you what are the ways that you go about making sure you take that stand to ensure the work is being done correctly, ethically. You're not sacrificing quality for the sake of
Meeting
um,
a deadline.
meeting the deadline exactly, or in regards to intellectual property, right? You're not cutting corners to ensure.
Pushing back on management, that was one thing.
Oh, you push back.
So
Okay.
I used to manage a group of process engineers, and we were pressured to meet certain deadlines. And I noticed from my career, from the beginning towards like the end of my career in the corporate world, the product development time, has reduced. And
Yeah.
that means there are certain things that are going to get missed, or you're cutting corners somewhere in order to meet these unrealistic deadlines. So there are safety reasons that are, safety issues that are going to come up. You're going to have recalls, you're going to have all these issues that we do see now in the news, or
Yeah.
with all different types of components failing because we're cutting those timelines. So when I used to speak on my team's behalf, I would have to push back on certain, deadlines and tell them that, okay, we're not ready, and be honest. Because we are taught to be honest, I would give them exactly how much work is complete and how much still needs to get done. Although we were always beat up on like not finishing things, like I think having to be their advocate and take on those
Yeah.
punches for them, I took it because that was the right thing to do, and that's okay. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Getting yelled at, that's okay. And then also not folding into the environment. I think that's another thing because of all the pressures, and it's
Absolutely.
so much easier to do what everybody else is doing. But our religion teaches us, like, to be honest, right? To take ethics, like,
Take it
seriously. And
seriously. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, don't be a conformist and just follow along with what everyone else is doing. Make sure you do the right thing, right? And that's one of the things I don't like about corporate, the pressure, the pressure from above to meet deadlines and decreasing the development stage, so to speak, right? The R&D or any of the stages really to get to the final product, right? All because they want to satisfy the customer and get the products out to them as fast as possible. And I think I feel like that's very important, especially in the automotive industry, right? If you're building a car, right? You're constructing a car, and you're trying to cut corners, get that the final prototype out in the market and be the first in the market, right? For your new model, whatever, right?
Yeah,
But if you don't do your appropriate safety checks and regulation checks and whatnot, the car is a risk to the end user, the customer, and then God forbid there's a recall, is a
yeah.
death related to the vehicle, whatever. And we hear it all the time, unfortunately, because production is they try to push the limit or push the envelope as far as decreasing the production time, right? And that's just one example. I'm sure there's so many others. But when it comes to identifying employers with issues like that, right? How can one identify that, right? Like, let's say there's an emerging talent, an aspiring student, engineering student wants to, let's say, work at, GMC or Ford, right? But they don't know much about the company or practically what's happening in the inside, right? How would you advise on students looking to work in different companies or even starting their own company for that matter, right? How can one identify companies that are ethical or practice or takes ethics seriously?
They should look at how these companies have dealt with controversies, or how they're reporting out on it. I think that will tell you how their leadership handle certain situations like that, looking at their leadership. There are resources out there that you can also talk to individuals who work at these companies, whether it's like through friends and family or on Glassdoor or LinkedIn or other platforms that would give you that insight. And these professionals should see if these are places that they would want to work at. Especially now, we all have so much, or there is so much information out there for us. It's up to us to
Yeah,
do our due diligence and read up on
absolutely.
these companies and see if they align with our values. Because I think early back, back in like 20 years ago or 10, 20 years ago, it was all about brand recognition. Like, oh, I want to work for this because
Right.
they have such a good reputation because of the name brand or whatever. But now there's such a huge churn, especially because of the genocide and understanding like
Yeah.
all the conflicts happening in the world, and fully understanding who we're working for is so important. And if you know these are companies that directly are involved in unethical activities,
Yeah.
you should decide, or if you want, obviously, you can decide not to work with those companies. And I think I could proudly say I've been able to decline some of these contracts that are with certain companies that have a direct impact
Yeah.
and I think we know we're all going to have to answer to Allah. And if we're making these small decisions and have faith in His plan, we will be okay, especially knowing that our rizq, our friends, our children all come from Him, that He's not going to steer us wrong.
Alhamdulillah, I'm glad you said that because, and I'm glad that a lot of people are opening their eyes, right? Finally, in
Yeah.
regards to, um, corporate ethics and their, the activities that they're involved in, right? And really doing their due diligence to figure out, what are their direct and indirect activities related to all these human rights violations and crimes against humanity and so forth. And so speaking of accountability, which I think we're getting into right now, is how can we, as individuals and as a society, really advocate for that level of accountability, especially at the corporate or professional level? What are some ideas you think we should, get involved with, or what are some ways you think we should do to really advocate for that level of accountability?
I think finding the courage to speak up. I think advocating for what you truly believe, and especially when we see something happening internal and we know it's not right, that's when we have to speak up and talk to them directly.
Yeah,
And if the message is not received, and or they just flat out don't want to listen, we have our compliance teams, right? Or HR within the company. If you think those
yeah,
people are, if you're able to go to those individuals, that's so important. And at least you're doing your part in that way. There are some individuals who just leave the companies altogether, and because that they truly believe that they cannot make a change within that company. And but at least they're speaking up about it. And I'm sure there are resources out there for supporting these individuals. Like one sister speaking up against certain management, she was able to be picked up by another organization because she did stand up. And I think if we're all standing up for
yeah,
the same cause, you will notice there are companies who align with what you believe in as well.
yeah, absolutely. And I think I know who you're talking about. That one sister from Microsoft, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yes, yeah,
mashallah.
yeah. Mashallah.
And that also helps other people, that encourages other people to stand up as well. It tells us, like, see, it's not the end of the world. You can also do this. And if we have more and more people standing up for each other and for doing the right thing,
Yeah.
it becomes easier to do so.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. If you have the courage to speak up, then do so, right? Especially when you know the information that you have with you, and it's really, really identifies the company that you're with and what they're doing is, you know, leading and contributing to death, and or famine or whatever the end result is, you should definitely speak up. But for those, I want to ask you, for those who don't have the courage or don't necessarily know how to speak up, what are there other ways that maybe people can be more maintain that accountability, or is there like a support group maybe they can join so to build up that courage. You know what I mean?
Think we have chair, right? There are certain organizations out there, I believe, that
Oh,
are
Care National, right? You're talking
yeah,
about Care National?
care.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for
Oh
sure.
my
Care.
god, ask Allah to give you that strength to maybe speak up, which obviously you don't wanna look away, right? That's one of the things is you're especially if you have that information, you shouldn't
Yeah.
be looking away. I think probably the first thing is trying to talk to your whoever is making these certain decisions and see if
Mhm.
there is some willingness to change. And there are go to your local mosques and talk to them and see how you can navigate through those certain situations. I'm sure that might be an option.
For sure. Yeah, no, that's great.
I think one of the things is at this point of my life not working not having that pressure to work for a corporation that is directly involved with those types of initiatives has helped me because I don't know what I would've what I would be doing at
Yeah.
that moment. Yeah, it's it's difficult, especially when you know that'll challenge your livelihood.
Yeah. No, for sure. No, that's great. I like that advice. And of course, if you need legal support or need to be in touch with somebody who um, can back your case if that's what you need, then definitely reach out to a trusted lawyer or organization like CARE, right? Who can give you the right level of support needed for your particular case. But going back to you, Sister Afaf, when it comes to working with the clients that you work with, right? How do you determine whether or not to work with them, right? Like making sure that like they align with their values. Is there like a certain process that you go through, or do you have initial conversations with them and then decide whether what's your process for doing that kind of
I
work?
look at how their management team makes certain decisions. I'll ask them about because a lot of the companies also volunteer outside of, like what they're doing, what their
Yeah,
initiatives are for their company, but also what other events or volunteers that they are directly involved with. I think that's so important. Just talking to them and seeing how they interact with their employees. I've had some contracts that I declined, as I mentioned.
hmm,
Some of these are you already know it's like military, so this is something, like,
yep,
"Oh, this is something I wouldn't want to,
you're right.
be involved in." Especially now with the knowledge of, like, what's truly happening, we know maybe this is something that I wouldn't want to, go work with. Also, just doing some research online and trying to see if they come up in different, if there are some controversies, directly related to those companies,
Yeah,
I would do that as well. But a lot of the time, I'm working with smaller companies, like right now with the consultancy agency, it's smaller companies that aren't they're just like tool makers or
sure.
manufacturing low volume products, so it's
Okay,
easy to work with those individuals.
that's good. Yeah, when you're working with the clientele that are, I guess, it's small to medium sized, right? This is I shall say. There tends to be less controversy or less issues with such companies versus large or corporate sized firms
Mhm.
where a lot of times you do see, unfortunately, a lot of those issues arise and scandals and it's the news that make the headlines. Absolutely, definitely do your research. And so when someone is doing that research, right? Or I guess the question here to you is like, what's a piece of advice you would give to a young Muslim professional entering either your field or any professional field? Like, what's your advice to make sure that they're making the right decision, right? Let's say they did the research, right, and then they don't know whether or not to go one direction or another, right? What's
Mhm.
your advice for making the right decision?
First, I think they should define what ethical means to them personally. Some individuals think that it's a company's responsibility to think about the environment or fair pay or inclusivity.
Yeah.
Or, so depends on each young professional and what do they think is ethical or unethical. I think that will help define which route to take for them. it'll be easier for them to recognize alignment between what the companies are that are out there and who they can work with.
Got it. Okay. So not only is the onus on the company, right, doing their due diligence on you as a candidate, but you as a candidate
Right.
have to do your due diligence on the flip side, right? Making sure that you know enough about the company to make a decision about yes or no. Do I want
Yeah.
to go with them or move on, right? Okay.
And don't I think or at least when I was in college, I noticed a lot of the young professionals taking the first offer that they're getting. I think we tend to forget that we also should be interviewing these employers and see where they stand on certain issues, and it's okay to do so. And during those interview processes,
Yeah.
I think that that should be known now. I'm sure it is, but it's like there's a sense of scarcity or something. And it's like, no, we have to take the first offer right away and
Yeah.
not realizing Allah has everything already planned out for us and the right opportunities will come to us. We just have to have sabr. We have to be patient. We have to have trust in his plan.
Absolutely, right. I definitely have that trust because that sense of fear is real, right? It is
Yeah.
real, especially in this economy and the political climate, and especially if you're a person of color or different
Mhm.
ethnicity, right? You know, let's just say if you're Palestinian or Yemeni, you will face any kind of ism, right? So, no, definitely. While those are real, definitely have that trust in Allah, in the higher being to know that the right opportunity is coming your way, right? Just do your part in making sure that you're making the right decisions, right? Going back to what we were saying, like don't cut corners or don't take like you're saying, don't take the first opportunity or offer that comes your way because it may not be the best one. Um, and so I wanted to ask you, are there any organizations uh, in your industry that you work in that are either run by some Muslims or very favor Muslim employees a lot. Are you aware of any of such organizations?
I'm not aware of any. When I was in corporate, we did have a Muslim group. One of our, so I don't know if they still have these called BRGs, business resource groups, but I
Uh huh.
remember we had one. I forgot what it was called, but I tried to make sure I was part of a few different BRGs. One was Women's Alliance, and this one was to the specific one was part of the mentoring program where I was able to help recruit mentees and mentors and then align like partner up those mentees with the mentors so that that could help the younger professionals understand what paths they can take while they're in the company. And then also the Muslim group, I was able to, I thought that was refreshing that they had a BRG for us because we were able to host annual event around Eid, showcasing like the different foods in different countries and the way that each different Muslim country practices Eid.
Yeah.
I thought that was refreshing in a corporate setting because
Oh.
I didn't know that they had something like that. Um, there are professional organizations I'm part of, but aren't strictly for Muslims, I think. Like Arab America Foundation, it's
Okay.
more about Arab Americans, like in general, like
Sure.
whether they're
Yeah.
Christian or Muslim, and but that group helps connect professionals all around the nation. I think that group is has helped me connect with different professionals nationally.
Okay.
And then for my entrepreneurship, I have Arab America Chamber of Commerce. And it's
Okay.
not strictly for Muslims, of course, it's for Arab, but at the same time, that's a resource group for me to connect with other individual entrepreneurs. Let's see. And then there are organizations that are geared towards minorities and women, which is helpful. A lot of these organizations are not near me. They're like an hour south of where I live, but there are still resources that I tend to like go to and
They're in the U.S. though, right? They're
yes, yes.
like located. Okay, gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. No, these are great resources, and definitely people who are either professionals or entrepreneurs, who have just started or want to get better at what they're doing should definitely take advantage of these resources for sure. So, Sister Fafa, I've enjoyed this conversation with you, and
Thank you.
learned a lot from you. And I'm sure there's so many who want to keep, keep learning from you and understand from your perspective how you started your journey as a founder and really what motivated you to be an entrepreneur. So, if you're open to mentorship, right? Well, how can the listeners connect with you so they can ask you questions or potentially be a mentee for you?
They can definitely email me at my engineering consulting email, which is Saleh, Saleh, at EngiDynamics, so EngiDynamics consulting.com, or find me on LinkedIn. I would respond to any LinkedIn message at Afaf Saleh. Just make sure you see there are so many Afaf Salehs out there.
Yeah.
Just find my picture. I think that's one of the things. Email my personal email. I love mentoring and helping any individual with, like, at least from what I've gone through. And if I'm able to share some of my knowledge and some of the roadblocks that I've had to overcome just to alleviate their pain, that would be, for me, I would, be doing my, whatever I was meant to be doing here on this earth. As
Sure.
long
No.
as we're trying to help, each other, I think it's so important. They can contact me at Saleh33@gmail.com. That's my personal email. And I'm always looking for opportunities to help mentor professionals, even through like international work as well. I have so many different projects that I choose to make sure that I'm helping the youth enter in these certain career paths that they may think that they're not able to do it. You have me, this Yemeni sheltered kid from Detroit that somehow navigated her way through the corporate industry and the automotive industry, and so many times there I was questioned and said that I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, and now I have my own companies and my own tech startup, and I'm still finding ways to somehow impact society in a positive way and to show the youth and show our people that they can also do it. And there is representation. And although growing up I didn't have that representation, I hope I can be that representation for younger females and try to navigate through, especially having a family, because
Mm,
in engineering school, I was taking care of a household, and then I had my oldest son, and then pregnant with my youngest, and still taking on these hard engineering courses and having to do finals. And Allah will give you that strength if you're willing to have faith in his plan and continue moving towards your goals respectfully, right? And making sure you're doing everything within our guidelines and with ihsan as well.
inshallah, inshallah. And you are definitely a representation of these aspiring female hijabi, or Muslim professionals who want to tread the same path as you are treading, right? So, mashallah, kudos to you. May Allah continue to bless you and the journey that
And
you're taking. I want to ask you also, as much as you love supporting these young professionals and kids, how can the public support you? Right? Tell us the ways that you can be best supported and what you're doing at Iconavize and EngiDynamics. What should the public do in that regard?
for Iconavize, I am trying to get it to all of the dealerships and car rental places. I'm starting off with a few pilots, but the most important thing is trying to get as many users as possible. So if they can go to app.iconavize.com, ICON, sign up there. And currently I have my MVP, but I am coming out with enhancements, and I will be able to get it on the App Store and Google Play Store where people will be able to use it. I think if I have traction that way, that would immensely help me get it and then have them use it. And if anyone wants to like give me feedback on that, I am open to that as well, because I want to cater to the customers, right? That's the most
Yeah.
important thing. And I want to make sure the features that I have on there are easy and simple to use, and that I am providing you with the information that you need.
For sure. Yeah. So if you're watching this, all the audience, download her app. Iconavize is on the app store and on the Android as well. So definitely download her app and reach out to her if you have any questions about, professional work, mentoring, or just general questions for Sister Afaf. you can reach out to her through email or LinkedIn.
I do offer internships. I have for my engineering consulting company, there is so much information that I would like to share, and part of that is having interns work with me for a couple months and just providing guidance on, what projects look like and what has to get done for each project and how unique they are for each different client. I think that helps, especially if you're a college student and you haven't had an opportunity to put in or get in some kind of experience prior to graduating. I've noticed that has helped a few different people because a lot of these companies, larger companies, are expecting you to have all this amount of experience prior to graduating. And sometimes that's not realistic. But I do offer that as well.
A little side joke on that. There was a meme that I saw on Instagram that said companies requiring 20 years of experience, and it shows a picture of like little children, like
Yeah.
babies, who work in the factories, getting their
Yes.
experience in before they, yeah. So it's kind of it's about the, I guess, the ridiculousness of like trying to get the amount of experience for an entry level job, right?
Yeah.
So that's really awesome that you're offering internships at your company, and I think it's going to be a valuable experience for those who want to uh, partake in that and take advantage of that.
Inshallah.
So for sure, inshallah, I'll reach out to Sister Afaf. Afaf, I thank you so much for sharing your journey, your advice, and all your insights. Definitely will resonate with the audience and to listeners, and many will be inspired by your path. So jazakallah khair. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on your platform. I truly appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Assalamu alaikum.
Masalama.
Thank you for listening to the Tread a Path podcast. You can find all the resources our guests mentioned in the Tread a Path archive in our website, coffeeproductions.com, along with the links to connect with our guest speakers. If today's conversation inspired you or helped you in your own professional journey, we'd love to hear from you. So please leave us a review, share the episode with someone who might benefit, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. May your treaded path be blessed and full of wisdom. Assalamu alaikum.